Flames danced, hungry, devouring the ancient castle. Stone walls once strong crumbled under the fire's relentless kiss. Smoke, thick and black, choked the air, a green shroud over the dying light. The stench of ash and decay heavy and acrid filled every crevice, a nightmare painted across the sky. A lone figure silhouetted against the inferno moved through the chaos. His name, long forgotten, irrelevant in the face of the inferno. He walked with a purpose untouched by the fire's fury. Each step measured and slow echoed the rhythm of his beating heart. His eyes reflecting the fire's light searched for something in the ruins, a flicker of hope in the heart of despair. He reached his destination, a grand hall now a skeleton of its former glory. A mirror untouched by the flames stood at the far end. It beckoned him a dark oasis in a sea of fire. The man walked towards it, his heart pounding against his ribs, a drumbeat against the symphony of destruction. He knew this was the answer to the riddle. He stopped before the mirror. Its surface, cold and unyielding, reflected the fire's light in a dizzying dance. A deep breath, a moment of stillness, then he looked into the depths of the mirror. What he saw there stole his breath and his soul, the face that stared back at him. He's and yet not. It was his face twisted, a grotesque mockery. His eyes burned with an infernal light reflecting not the fire, but an inner darkness. A cruel smile played on the lips of the reflection, promising pain, whispering of oblivion. It was him, yet everything he loathed, everything he feared. The man reeled back, a gasp escaping his lips. Horror choked him cold and sharp. He raised a hand as if to ward off the evil staring back at him. His hand trembled, a leaf in the wind. Doubt gnawed him. Was this his true face? The monster lurking beneath the surface. The reflection mimicked his every move, taunting, tempting. It reached out from the mirror, its hand a mirror image of his own, yet grotesquely wrong. A cold whisper slithering through the war of the flames invaded his mind. Embrace me, it hissed. Become one with your true self. He couldn't resist, not anymore. The man stepped closer, drawn to the mirror like a moth to a flame. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if he were wading through quicksand. Or perhaps he was sinking into the depths of his own reflection. He was mesmerized. The promise of power, the allure of darkness. It was intoxicating. He stood before the mirror, his breath misting on its cold surface. The reflection's eyes held his captive, burning into his soul, searing away the last vestiges of his humanity. He could feel its power, dark and intoxicating, flowing from the mirror, wrapping around him like a shroud. Yes, he whispered, his voice a dry rasp. Yes, I embrace you. With a trembling hand, he reached out and touched the surface of the mirror. It was cold, colder than ice, and it sent a jolt through him. Like a lightning strike, he cried out, a sound of both pain and pleasure. As the boundary between the real and the reflected shattered, the world dissolved into a kaleidoscope of colors and sensations. He felt himself pulled into the mirror, his body merging with that of his reflection. Agony and ecstasy intertwined in a macabre dance. He screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the inferno raging around him. Or was it raging within him? He stood within the mirror, or rather the mirror was no more, and he was no longer the mob who had walked into the burning castle. He was reborn. The reflection stared back at him from the shattered fragments of the mirror, scattered on the floor. His reflection, weak, pathetic, disgusted. He turned away. Gone was the fear that dealt the lingering traces of humanity. He was whole, complete. The fire that consumed the castle now burned within him, but it did not hurt, it empowered him. He looked down at his hands. They were no longer trembling. They were strong, his fingers tipped with claws of obsidian. He smiled, a slow, cruel smile that spread across his face like a crack in a shattered mirror. Yes, this was his true self, the darkness he had always tried to deny. The castle groaned around him, finally succumbing to the inferno, but he was untouched. He was the fire, he was the darkness, he was the monster, and he was free. The world stretched before him ripe for the taking, and he, the man who had stared into the mirror and embraced his evil, was ready to claim it all.